Hey guys, just Zeneca here with another cast of a PVZ from LzGaMeR's replay pack that he posted on Reddit not too long ago. It's on Neo Planet S, as you can see by the little mini-map there. So first off, we have LzGaMeR spawning in the 7 o'clock position in the bottom left, and in the top right position as the blue Protoss we have a Barcode, which could be anybody, which makes it mildly exciting, but I don't know. Unless you're like a Korean Protoss, I really don't see, unless you're like a Korean pro gamer and all your replays are absolutely, vitally necessary, I don't really see the point in barcoding as much. Hey, oh, sorry, I forgot to also mention, my co-caster here today is none other than Liam Dunn. Liam, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah. Good to be here. I'm really excited. Actually, I haven't done casting before, but definitely, hopefully, I'll provide a bit of an insight into the game.
That's right. Well, anyway, yeah, there's quite a lot of new changes to Heart of the Swarm. Makes it a little bit more interesting than Wings of Liberty, especially in PvZ. Now, unfortunately, the openers, well, the first couple minutes of the game are still very much the same. Like, still Forge Fast Expand for the Protoss, which it seems like he's going to be going Nexus first. Again, the pull timing for the Zerg player coming down at about 2 minutes and 5 seconds. So normally that means that he can actually get away with a Nexus first and not have to put down that Forge. And it looks like he will be electing to do so.
Yeah, heading for that Nexus.
Now,
would you say though, David, that the meta's changed a little? Would you say there's a little more one-base play from the Protoss?
I think it's definitely undiscovered territory. Like, there's new things that you can be doing, whether it be for like Stargate plays and such like that. Like, there's something that I've been kind of been working on where you actually take you make a Stargate obviously off one base, but with the new mothership core and the photon overcharge, it makes it really easy to take the natural, whereas normally you'd have to make extra gateways. You'd have to get your natural wall down, and you'd be at the threat of speed ling run-bys, something like that. Because when you are operating off one base, it does look like there's just numerous things that Protoss can do, whether it be foregating or anything like that. So it does add a new nice element to the game, but still, Forge Fast Expanding, still very, very strong. The most economical, and most likely the more options. But we'll have to see how it turns out.
Yeah, definitely still a solid play to go for that Forge Fast Expand, try and get that economy up early. But I do see in the future a lot of one base play coming out from future Protoss. I can see some new strategies that haven't quite reached the surface yet coming out, just from a little bit of play on the ladder I've seen already.
That's right.
But looks like he got that third down on a pretty nice timing. So with the natural up now, it's going to kind of lead out to a bit more of a macro game by the looks of things.
That's right. And as we can see, but the Barcode has taken both of his gases in the main, and that normally does mean that he will be aiming to at least do something, not just 7 gating, and actually putting some tech in. As let's have a look. Does he put both 3? Yep, puts both 3 in gas. So normally you can tell that if it's 2 probes in each, it could be a 7 gate with like a +1 attack. But we'll have to see what he does there. Looking at the Zerg side of things, still just droning up. Not too much that either player can do really at this point. And it's not so much that they don't want to. They don't want to put the aggression on. Like, if they could, they most likely would make the game more interesting. But it's just the fact that the game is so developed at this point that it's not really necessary to do those kinds of things anymore. Well, not necessary, but it's better off to play like this, because normally anything that your opponent can do to you, you can scout and just be prepared for it, and eventually get the advantage that way.
It's definitely less risky to play it like this, especially even though we've just gone into a new expansion. Just having the experience from Wings of Liberty, in that you've got a bit of confidence that you're not going to face anything too severe as to all-ins or anything like that. And plus, with very well-timed scouts these days, it's very unnecessary to go for any other plays. But the Zerg player seems to be droning quite well. Not the best. I've seen he's missed a couple of timings a little, but still doing quite well.
That's right. And so Zerg, on the Zerg side, doing not too many new things, but at the moment, the Protoss has made his choice, and he's gone for the Stargate. And interestingly enough, he's gone for the Phoenix first. Now, Phoenix still has quite a lot of good potential. Obviously, picking off Overlords, and now actually in Heart of the Swarm they have the new +1 range. I mean, they come with an extra 1
The
range
natural
compared to
range.
Wings of Liberty, yeah. And that just makes it that much a little bit easier when you're trying to snipe Overlords that are just standing above a Spore Crawler or something like that. It just makes it a little bit more smoother. Now, I could be wrong, but I think the Zerg opponent actually did make these gases a little bit earlier than you might normally see. As we can see, I don't think a Roach Warren was actually made, so we could be seeing some early tech play coming from the Zerg player here.
The Zerg's definitely seen the Stargate though, so we're expecting a bit of reaction here. We've got a couple of Spore Crawlers coming up.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised though, because when I actually look at the Zerg player's vision there, he has not actually seen the Stargate. So I think what he may have assumed is just the fact that the Protoss has not made any inkling to really do anything at this point. And when the Zerg player does not make a Roach Warren and just goes for these earlier gases, it actually makes that the Zerg player is actually ahead because they're being more greedy. They've made more drones and they're just playing that way. And
But at the same time, it does open them up to those aggressive plays, which we're kind of seeing now. But he's reacted quite well in getting those Spore Crawlers up at this point. Maybe not as big of a reaction as he needed. It'll depend on kind of where the Protoss player goes from here if he continues on with the aggression. But to this point, he's done quite well to get that reaction up.
that's right. And I mean, just because of the lack of let's have a look. Now, unfortunately, these Zealots do not have +1 attack. This would probably trade a lot better than it normally would if they did have that. But a little bit of nice aggression here. It forced a couple of Lings out, but it definitely didn't do as much damage as I think the Protoss wanted to do here, but we'll have to see. Now, this is where it gets a little bit troublesome for the Protoss. I mean, the Zerg opponent basically has taken the third base unhindered and was able to get his choice of tech, which was basically the Spire and the Infestation Pit, which looks to be that he's going for the Swarm Host because he's getting the upgrade for the extra 10-second life, I believe. So if we look over here, Protoss is taking his third base. And yeah, as we can see, Swarm Host just coming up now.
And we've got a bit of a run by with the Zerglings trying to push back that third.
That's right. But
nothing too aggressive here. I think more than anything it was a bit of a scout, but in an attempt he wasn't sure if he was out of position or not, trying to see if he can take that one down. I think it's going to show. We're going to see a lot of the Zerg's reaction here. He's got a couple of things he could do with these swarm hosts coming out. He can try and push on that third and see if he can pressure it back to just back to. But I can't really tell whether or not he's going to just try and take his fourth from here.
That's right, and I think the Protoss has done a very nice job. Let's have a look at his vision. Has he actually seen? He has not actually seen the Spire and the Infestation Pit, so he's got plenty of energy on these sentries. With the free hallucination, he could definitely, without sacrificing his Phoenixes, get a little bit of scouting information, but he could be in a little bit of trouble here, as the Zerg player is going for Corrupt Swarm Host. Now, I haven't actually seen this style as of yet, but I can imagine the strength of it. I mean, Swarm Hosts, normally the counter for those is to just basically mass up a decent amount of Colossus, and what beats Colossus better than Corruptors do? So we'll have to see.
It's
how
definitely
this
an
turns out.
interesting style. I've heard a little about this about Corruptor Swarm Host, but not as much. It's not a very agile play. Corruptors and Swarm Hosts themselves are the most mobile units, especially off creep. You can come into a bit of trouble getting those Swarm Hosts around. It can be a strong push, and especially at this point when the Protoss is just trying to get that third base up, it can be quite strong. So I'm really interested to see kind of how it goes from here. But I think it's definitely a new play, and we're going to see it come a lot more solidly with a lot tighter and quicker builds coming out from people.
Yeah, I think you're right as well. Now here comes the first engagement with these Swarm Hosts. Now they look like they have 65 HP on all of these. Now that doesn't seem like much, but I mean they just look how much it's forcing the Protoss to just move back. I mean he was initially here, and just as he's finished dealing with those Swarm Hosts, another round of Swarm Hosts already come up again. Now he should be careful here. I mean if those Swarm Hosts, the Swarm Hosts are basically vulnerable right now. If he had actually gone to go attack them, but just as I say that, another round of Swarm Host will be coming, but he quickly unburrows, picks up and goes away. Oh.
Yeah, we're going to see some interesting engagement here. Having those 2 early Colossus is definitely going to help him push this back a lot, but it's an interesting play to see this transition into quite heavy mutas, from what we kind of expected to be more of like a heavy Corruptor play. It's going to be interesting to see what he does with that. I feel like he's already invested a lot of gas in going to those Swarm Hosts, and the amount of gas, you know, obviously you have to put into getting mutas. This is going to be interesting as to where he's going to go from here, and he's looking at a sneak base down here, so we're looking at a 5th, so we'll see if that goes unscattered. If that's the case and he can get his gas up and running, then this build could work quite strongly, having that harass from the mutas and at the same time just the powerhouse of what you've got for the Locust from the Swarm Host. But I think it's really going to be an interesting play what comes from here.
Yeah, I definitely like the muted choice is quite nice. I'm not sure if I think the Protoss has seen it. I mean, he's already starting to get his Stalker count a little bit higher, whereas naturally when someone is going Swarm Host, you make quite a lot more Colossus to deal with him, but it's a very nice play. I think LzGaMeR really thinks that it hasn't been scouted yet, but little does he know that yeah, there's actually quite a big Stalker force that is coming through on his side of the map.
And the push is coming in now. He's seen the drones. That was a fatal mistake for this large base that he's trying to get running now. Now that he's seen it, this is going to be interesting to see whether he wants to take it out straight away, or he's going to push in.
Now, I'm kind of surprised that LzGaMeR has not tried to really... Okay, now I think he's trying to make use of them, but for a really long time there, I mean, I'm not sure if he had vision of the Protoss army, but he was just gaining more and more Stalkers, and I think he must have known at that point that the mutas had already been scouted, so he should already start trying to do damage as quickly as possible, or else situations like this where cannons will already come up, but it looks like he actually does make it in with a good timing, and a little bit of bad play there. It doesn't actually manage to get the photon overcharge up, but... And again, I mean, this base was saturated with probes about not too long ago. And
interesting engagement here too, bringing those Corruptors along. I think that was a bit of a mistake. He may have been just trying to thwart back those Colossus, but in such small numbers they can get taken out quite quickly. And I also feel from the Zerg's point of view there, having those mutas, they were quite in the dark, like they weren't really doing much for a while then, and that may have actually hindered him on a harassment stage, especially having that other base getting taken out. But the Protoss is doing quite well to keep quite alert on the map, and at the moment he's at home defending until he can get those cannons up, but generally he's pushing out and being quite aggressive in taking that map dominance, so trying to his half of the map.
I think that fifth base, the fact that he was able to snipe that fifth base was really nice for the Protoss there, because he's now kept the Zerg opponent only on 4 bases, which at this point, when the Protoss is able to keep the same amount of bases as the Zerg, and only the gas is taken at the 4th base for the Zerg, it makes it a very even game, and very, you'd say almost favourable for the Protoss. But as you can see here, he's really trying to pull the Protoss apart. He's attacking the Swarm Host from the south side, but also attacking from mutas on the 3rd base here. And this is quite a scary death ball to deal with. Now, you'd be surprised. Once you hit a critical mass of mutas, you can actually deal with Stalkers like he is here.
You can do a lot of damage, especially having those glaives. You can tear through a Stalker army at a certain point. And plus having these Locusts just pushing on his side here must be definitely splitting the Barcode's mind at the moment, pushing back those bases. Having that 2-pronged force is going to be pushing him back, and we're seeing the Zerg push out a lot here. How do you think about the Zerg's comeback here, David? Do you think he's kind of pushing in the right direction by doing this, like these 2-pronged plays?
Look, I think it's very nice. He's managed to keep the Protoss only on 3 bases this entire time, where he's finally got a little bit more saturation at this 4th base here, and he's taken the base at the bottom right and the base at the top left as well, so he's definitely trying to spread the Protoss thin.
Oh, we've got a rough engagement here. This probably isn't good for the mutas, especially. He did have the army quite split at the moment, though. It could work out well. It's an interesting engagement at this point. You don't often see fights like this. It doesn't usually get to this point with this massive ball of mutas by the time he's transitioned into something else. But with this HOTS play, it's changing quite a lot.
That's quite right, and I just think it's quite interesting that although the mutas, obviously Colossus do nothing against mutas, and I'm quite surprised that the Protoss we've
got an engagement down here with the Locust between the Stalkers here. He's trying to take them all out. Looks like he may be successful, but at the same time he's taking a fair bit of damage to his Stalker army here.
That's right, just too much stuff. Now, if we look back, he's trying to just pull back with the Mutas here. I'm not sure. This army should be able to take it, but this is not I mean, there's only one Archon there. I really think if he just magic boxes on top of that army and is really able to just kill all
Definitely.
of that.
With a mutable like that, there's nothing stopping him taking that force out. I don't think the Protoss quite realizes the situation he's in at the moment. But interestingly enough, he's surprised to head for the Protoss base. And I think he can do definitely a lot of economical damage here. But it may have even been in his interest to take out that army and then push in, because I feel like he would have had quite the massive mutas.
Now, it's not a bad choice that he has made. Or actually, there's no Archons here, so I'm fairly sure that if he actually wanted to, he could probably actually take this army on. I mean, +3 attack for the for the Stalkers, and only +1 armor for the Mutas, but still doing quite well. Now, I mean, the very important thing to note here is that he's actually kept the Protoss only on 3 bases this entire time, and he's crippled the economy so many times.
Very limited at the moment.
That's right. And I'm not sure what the Protoss expects to do here. I mean, he's 123 supplied to 166. The bank for the Zerg very mineral heavy, but still a bank nonetheless. And it's just not looking very good for the Protoss. I'm not sure what he can do really to come back here.
At this moment, it's not looking quite good. I think, what would you say are kind of his options here? I don't think he's quite even got the ability at the moment. He doesn't have the mobility to move out and try and take another base, just with those mutas flying over. I think one of his only options here would try and get at least a good positioning on the other army and just keep pushing that Zerg back until he's starting to run out of money.
That's right. I think honestly, there is just not many options for Protoss to do at this point. I mean, if he base trades, there just isn't enough cannons or enough storm. In fact, there is no storm at the natural base. And as soon as this happens, again, as soon as the Protoss leaves the base, mutas come in, and this is probably the best timing for it. As soon as they leave, you go in. But now he's keeping the Protoss back at home, which is essentially just mining off 1 base worth of economy, whereas the Protoss is
We have some DTs also running through the Zerg's base. I think this is a bit of a desperation play at this point, but you never know. It's going to really depend on how well the Zerg can multitask here if he keeps sending them through, but it does feel a bit like a desperation play. He doesn't have many options at the moment.
That's right. I'm surprised he hasn't. He's actually
he's
DT,
actually got no vision on this one.
That's right. And I don't. Has he got? He's got 1 overseer making. How far away is it though? He's actually at the natural. So
he had it here.
I see.
Yeah. But I think, lesson learned. He may be having a couple more in the mix.
Actually, just as you say that, another DT
There's a DT down
in the 5th base. Yeah, just having fun that way. And it really I'm not sure. Like, there's just been too many blunders from the Protoss. When he was pulled apart with the swarm hosts in the bottom, while there was mutas attacking at the top, if he had just spread his units out a bit better, with having the Colossus not fighting with his entire army, it would have been able to not have that 4th base denied for so long. And with
I think it was a fragile point at that stage, but I think if he had to move those Colossus down with maybe even a small force towards to deal with just the locusts that were coming at him, so we could get that base up, get a solid 4th, while leaving the Stalkers to deal with those mutas, it could have been a better option than kind of just trying to 100% dedicate his entire force to dealing with those mutas, because as we can see, it's just left him in a bad state. We're looking kind of at a base trade right now, possibly, and I think if anything, this is a good move for the Protoss to try and force this as much as he can. It's going to be kind of on the Zerg to kind of decide what's going to happen here, really.
Now, the very crucial thing here is that the Zerg has to get drones out, and I mean, at the moment, he's not moving his drones in from the natural or in the main base to just move across the map. In fact, he's actually doesn't really have enough minerals to even make a hatchery at this point. So, although it looks like the Zerg may win the game here, the Protoss army can actually still beat this Muta Death Ball if they clump up just well enough. And I believe he has about, he's got a decent amount of storms in there, or at least more than 5. And we'll have to see, but
this is going to be interesting. I think he's realised now already, the Zerg player, that at this point, he's running the risk of losing. So he's going to try and defend this push here. And I think this is really going to be one of the deciders of what's going to happen in this game.
Look, I'm kind of surprised, because normally in this situation, you have this many mutas. He's actually got 63 mutas. That is a lot of money spent in mutas. And I tell you what, if he had just gone to the Protoss base, just killed everything, and everything would die relatively fast as well. And maybe even do just a little bit of a a Zerg expedition and just get these drones out and just start making buildings all across the map, he'd probably have more of a chance than trying to engage us. But the Protoss army looking really small.
I agree completely. At this point, he's really he's being incredibly indecisive with his mutas right now. He's losing time. If he had been at the base right now, he could have definitely cleared out a lot of it. Oh, the storms are coming in now. We're going to see now. But that is such a massive ball of mutas that he's got here.
That's right.
Yeah, there was nothing the Protoss could do. I think overall, a pretty well played game by both players, but the Protoss there just made a couple of blunders that he just couldn't come back from. And with a muta force like that, not much that he could do.
That's right, and it's just things like that, you know, the small advantages that just kind of make that toppling effect. Like, if you really just on top of your game and you have like those units where you just spread them out a little bit more nicely, you can get that fourth base and just be still in the game with to some degree. And he did make some nice moves by killing off the bases in the 5th position and the and this 4th base up here. But like I said, 63 mutas turns out pretty strong against Protoss when the army is that small. So I guess that's it. Liam, any thoughts on Heart of the Swarm or?
I think it's turning out to be quite well. I had my doubts in the first place, but I think what Blizzard's really done, especially I was quite worried with the Protoss units. Seeing what they've done with them, I think they've definitely worked it out quite well, and it's turning out to be an awesome expansion. I think we're going to see so many more interesting plays coming from each of the races. I'm also seeing, on an unrelated note, Terran with mech becoming incredibly strong, especially having those siege tanks out with siege mode so much earlier. Just things like that. I think we're going to see some massive plays.
That's right. Well, again, this has been a Zeniku / Liam Dunn Starcraft 2 cast of Heart of the Swarm. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching. So catch you guys later.
GG, have a good one.